Yo, we back in the flesh. Can I hear myself now? Is that a little bit better? Oh, that's a little bit better. Yo, what up everyone? How you doing? It's your boy Walterdoom, back for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. This is episode 9. And y'all already know what episode it is if you guys were looking at the title description on the thumbnail and everything. But we're gonna talk about everyone's favorite movie so far that came out this year, Bird Box. Yeah. And it's gonna be kind of like a deep dive a little bit. I'm gonna talk about like things that I like and what I dislike, and we're gonna see whether it's overrated or not. Now, first off, before we talk about Bird Box, let's talk about a couple of things that's been going on with me. So, you guys, I was trying to record this episode a lot earlier and try and get it out to you guys earlier, but I caught a cold over the weekend and it's been kicking my ass ever since. Right now, today I feel a little bit better, but it's still trying to linger. But I told myself, like, hey, let's try and record this, get this over with, release the episode so I could keep it consistent, keep a weekly consistent episode coming for you guys. But beyond that, how do you guys' New Year going so far? How's the first week? Right now for me, for my New Year's resolution, if you guys have any, well, for me, my New Year's resolution was to create a vision board about goals and things that I wanted to accomplish. And one of the goals that I have on my vision board is actually doing an episode each week for you guys. Try and have an episode each week. Try and be consistent as much as possible, because we gotta do that around here. Just something to kind of like keep myself busy, trying to have something to work towards too, and trying to like get kind of like a fan base going for you guys, because like I said, this is not all about like trying to be Instagram popular or anything. This is all good fun, I'm doing it whether I get paid or not for this shit. I'm just doing it for you guys because I love horror. I've been loving it since I was a kid. And like I said, man, when I faced my fears of Chucky, it was all hands off deck with any horror movie there was. And I just feel like the horror movies that I watch, I could kind of pinpoint a horror movie for you guys depending on what level you're on, Like if you're like someone who really isn't into like the whole serial killer slasher film like I am, I'm not going to point you towards that direction, I'm going to point you over to the direction of like ghost stories or creature features or whatever. Like I will point over to something that is more your lane, so that way you don't have to be dealing with like nightmares or anything like that. Funny story though, I was watching Toolbox Murder 2 and I featured it on my Instagram page. So a good buddy of mine saw what I was watching, asked what I was watching, when they could watch it. I told them, yeah, Toolbox Murder 2, and you can watch it on Tubi, which is free. So they watched it, and man, oh man, I felt guilty afterwards. I legit felt guilty because I found out the next day they told me that they had nightmares about being in that movie. Like literally they felt like they were going to be the person on the table getting chopped up and everything. And I felt so guilty because I thought their horror level was on the same level as mine, but it's not. If I knew, like, because Toolbox Murder 2 is very horrific. It's very gory. It's literally on the same level as Saw. If you guys aren't like really big Saw fans or anything like that, yeah, that movie would definitely give you nightmares because it takes gore to a whole new level, and I love that it does. That movie and Terrifier were definitely two movies that I liked last year that really got my slasher intrigue going. But yeah, they watched it and I felt so guilty afterwards. I literally kept apologizing. I'm like, dude, I am so sorry. I didn't even know that was gonna happen. But anyway, moving on. What I'm gonna do also is a new thing called Meme of the Week, and I'm gonna talk about memes that I kind of like or kind of thought that was funny. And some of them is gonna be horror related, some of them are not. Depending on what's out there, it's just gonna be something that I really like and kind of like something I'm interested in, and hopefully it catches you guys' interest also. So the meme of the week was a Bird Box meme, and not only was it a Bird Box meme, but it also deals with like the new docu series that just recently passed, which is the Surviving R. Kelly docu series. Now, I'm not gonna really talk too much about the whole R. Kelly situation because I mean, in all honesty, I mean the guy's sick. You know, I mean all the stuff that we're hearing. I mean, obviously the guy got problems, but it's not my place to talk about this dude. It's not the channel for that. We're not gonna rant. This is not the music channel or anything like that. This is not Hot 97 or anything like that. I'm not Ebro. I'm not Rosenberg or anybody like that. So I'm not gonna touch bases too much on that. But the meme is fucking hilarious, which I am gonna throw up for you guys like whoosh. But it says getting black people to see R. Kelly for the monster he is, and you see like Gary holding the eyes open of the one chick in Bird Box, which is so hilarious. So Bird Box just came out. Well, actually, it's been out for quite a while. Came out December of last month, pretty much the closing in of December. And I mean, I hope that a lot of you guys already watched it. I mean, I know there's some people, well, some of my friends, they haven't watched Bird Box yet. I'm about to give you guys a synopsis about my thoughts and takes on Bird Box because I was very conflicted the first time I talked about it. The first time I talked about it on my Instagram, I gave it kind of like a good rating. Well, not really a good rating. I didn't even rate the movie. I just told people like it's a good watch at first. That was my initial reaction. But at the same time, when I said it was a good watch, I realized I was kind of reluctant on telling them that it was a good watch because I was in that mode of like, it's okay. You know, I didn't tell them like it's a classic. I didn't tell them like it's a great watch or anything. The thing is, the first time when I was watching it, I really got caught up in more of like the emotional aspects of the characters. I didn't really like stick to more of the technical storyline or the consistency of everything that was happening. Everything kind of happened after I watched it a second time. But even then, like my first time watching it, I still was asking myself questions like, how did that happen? So I'm going to give you guys like my first initial reaction of it and also the follow through, which also is kind of influenced by like videos that I've watched on YouTube about people explaining Bird Box a little bit. But at the same time, it's not fully, you know, I'm not fully embracing everything that they're saying because at the same time, I was asking myself some of these same questions that they were actually putting out there. But for those that haven't watched Bird Box, basically Bird Box is dealing with this dystopian future where everybody has been committed a mass suicide by this unknown force that has struck worldwide, basically. Sandra Bullock plays this character named Mallory, and after 5 years of surviving with her kids and, well, yeah, just basically 5 years after surviving with her kids, they're trying to make their way to this camp that's like a safe nest from the outbreak. But in order to get there, they have to get there blindfolded. And kind of like the premise of the movie is really interesting because, you know, you have to think to yourself like, wow, they have to make this crazy journey blindfolded. How are they going to do that? And that's really what probably intrigued people the most is the aspect of the premise. The premise really was a driving force for this movie. What I liked about this movie, first off, it's very star-studded. It has a great cast and great acting. You know, you have Sandra Bullock who plays Mallory. You have Trevante Rose who plays Tom, who was also on Moonlight. And you have Douglas, who's played by John Malkovich, and Charlie, who's played by Lil Rel Howery. And it just, the list goes on and on. Sarah Paulson plays Sandra Bullock's sister. Yeah, you have Sarah Paulson who plays Sandra Bullock's sister, which in my opinion, I was kind of disappointed to see her die so early. I mean, seriously, I'm a big fan of American Horror Story, and I usually like watching Sarah Paulson in the show. So to see her just get killed off like so instantly in this movie, I was kind of devastated. I was like, damn, why did she have to go so fast? But besides the star-studded actors, the acting was definitely decent. There was some parts of the story that was kind of like some part acting, but at most, I mean, you had very stellar acting by Sandra Bullock and Trevante Rhodes, and also by John Malkovich, who played Douglas. Now, I'm gonna have to say this: Douglas was probably like one of the few characters that I really liked in this movie. I mean, he was definitely the one person that was kind of holding the whole thing down. He was definitely like the reasonable, telling everybody like, hey, why are we going to do this? We can't let this person in. If we do, we will pay the price. He made the most sense out of everybody. It's kind of like when I was watching Cabin in the Woods, or no, not Cabin in the Woods, Cabin Fever, and the character Bert. Yeah, I really liked that character because he was like straight up, down to earth. He was logical about the things he was saying. When that one chick got the disease and what have you, he was like, nah, we gotta get rid of this bitch. And then when the hermit was trying to like fuck with them, he was like, nah, dude, you can't come with me. You gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, seriously, Bert was the one character that was really just like telling everybody, if we don't do this, you guys are really gonna make a big mistake and we're gonna be fucking up and we're all gonna die. Like, it was like, damn, dude, you're the real. But I mean, I'm pretty sure there was like some people, I talked to some of my friends, they said they didn't really like Douglas, and I can kind of get why. I mean, Douglas does come off as an asshole or whatever, but I mean, it's like the movie wants you to feel that way. If you're caught in the emotional aspects of it, it's like, come on, of course you're gonna feel like Douglas is an asshole. It's because he has a tough exterior. Whereas Mallory, she had a tough exterior also. I mean, her idea was survival first and all that. But at the same time, it was like we had to sympathize with her for simple reasons because she was pregnant, and she kind of sympathized with the other characters, even though, and I feel like that was one of the inconsistencies of this movie, that she really wasn't like too much of a people person. I mean, you can see it in her paintings in the beginning of the movie where she draws like, well, not draw, but paints like a bunch of characters, and they feel also isolated from each other and disconnected. So I mean, we're kind of like given like this motion that like she's disconnected from everyone, but yet at the same time, she's trying to bring everybody together and all that, and trying to like hold the group together. The second thing I would have to say that I like about this movie was definitely the gore and body count. I mean, this movie had a significant amount of gore and body count in it. It was definitely like something that I really do like when it comes to a horror movie, especially when it's like a slasher film. You don't go into a slasher film to see like 2 or 3 bodies drop. You're trying to see like a whole fucking like cornfield piled up and all that. The thing is, like, in this movie, you get to see a lot of the characters die, especially main characters. Like, there's people that, like, you end up caring about, like Charlie, for instance. Like, I did not want to see Charlie die. Like, when that whole fish fingers incident happened, I was just like, damn, dude, like, did Charlie really have to sacrifice himself to save everyone like that? Because Douglas had the gun on him. I don't know what Douglas was doing. I mean, he could have just got off the door, point the gun at Fish Fingers, and shot him dead. Just like that. He had the gun. But instead, Charlie's dumbass is gonna like fucking run after Fish Fingers, get caught in the loading dock, and get his ass killed. It's crazy, bro. But that was one death that really, like, made me kind of upset. As I mentioned earlier, Douglas's death made me upset also to see. And Tom, I mean, it was definitely sad to see when Tom died also. The main person that should have died was Olympia. She deserved to die. I don't know about you guys, but I was pissed the fuck off with her ass. I actually kind of feel like I was pissed the fuck off with her when she first entered the whole scene with everyone. I mean, she was just this chick that just came out of nowhere. I guess she lived a block away, made her way to the house, and out of all the houses, she makes her way into that house, pregnant also, and she's just like scared and just like a big baby, and it was nothing tough about her. I mean, she was too trusting with everyone. She believed too much good in everyone, and that was her fucking downfall when she dealt with fucking Gary. And for her to get fooled by Gary, it was like kind of like well, no shit, she got fooled. She's sitting there sympathizing, being all scared and crying and all this other shit. Like, come on, dude. Like, man the fuck up. That's a motherfucker you don't want to be stuck in a zombie apocalypse. It's like an Anna in the Apocalypse. It's like, who would you rather be stuck with? You rather be stuck with John, or would you rather be stuck with Nick? If you guys seen Anna in the Apocalypse. Now, John was Anna's best friend, and like I mentioned in the last podcast, John was kind of like scared. I mean, even though he kind of sacrificed himself to the zombies, which was an act of bravery in a way, in quotation marks, it wasn't going to change Anna's feelings about him. She was still going to friend zone that nigga in the end. But Nick, that dude, man, that was the real motherfucker to team up with. That dude was fearless just because he came from a military background. And that's the thing. How is that Olympia, she has a husband that's in the military. He's in the Air Force. I mean, I'm assuming because she said that's where she was. How is it that her man is in the Air Force and she gets scared shitless? Like, if anything, I would have hoped, like, in their relationship, he would have instilled that toughness in her. But she didn't. Like I said, it was kind of upsetting to see her come into the scene, get everybody fucking killed in the process because her ass is too trustworthy. That was one of the things that I would have to say I dislike, which is what we're moving forward to on now. Here's a couple of things that I dislike on top of like Olympia. So the main thing that really got me hot besides Olympia getting controlled by Gary, who was controlled by the creature? The main thing that kind of got me upset was the motherfucking creature. What the fuck was the creature anyway? I mean, seriously, what was it? What was it powers? I mean, to me, after watching it the first time, I was asking myself, like, okay, what is this creature? Are we going to eventually see it? Because we kind of get a hint that we might end up seeing this creature sometime in the movie, like actually seeing what it looks like. But we never get a chance to see it. I mean, I thought at the end we were going to get a chance to see what the creature looks like, but we never did. We only got like little silhouettes of what could possibly be the creature, but never really seeing fully what the creature was. We kind of get an idea of what the creature is based on what Charlie analysis is, because he's been studying demons for a while because he's writing a book. But it doesn't fully explain what the creature is. Neither does Gary's drawings of the creature. That never really explains like what the creature is. It just looks like a bunch of sketches of silhouettes and what have you. That looks very demonizing. But the thing about what upsets me also about the creature is, what is its clear strengths, powers, and weaknesses? Yeah, so what I mean by that is, what constitutes of this creature actually controlling a person. And I feel like that was one thing that was like lacking in the movie, was the consistency of how people are getting control. Like, for one, let's use a creature for an example. Say like Dracula, for example. Dracula's power is His teeth. His strength, he has super strength. He has cunning ability, manipulation. He could turn himself into a bat. And he could turn other people into vampires. Weaknesses. He gets stabbed in the heart. That's it. Well, he gets stabbed in the heart by a steak knife, or he could get his head chopped off. That's pretty much it. And that's how you kill Dracula. Let's use somebody that's very current. Let's use Chucky, since we're on the Child's Play movie that's going to be coming out soon of this year. So Chucky's strength is voodoo ability. His power is kind of like voodoo. His strength, he doesn't have much strength, but he is a knife-wielding maniac. I would say he's a tacticianer for like trying to kill people. I don't know if you guys feel like he is or isn't. Because the way he sometimes kills people, it is very like, he kind of plans it out in a way. He does kind of take like whatever he could get and use it as a weapon, and which is why I'm kind of giving him that. He could take anything, use it as a weapon, as a force to kill you. His weakness, shoot him in the heart, and he's pretty much dead. And if he stays as a doll long enough, he'll eventually become human, which could give you enough time to literally kill him. That's pretty much it. Now, what is this creature? What is his power? What is his weakness? Obviously the weakness that we know of the creature is that if you block it from like trying to see you, or if you block your vision, obscure your vision in any type of way, blindfold, shades, whatever, you could pretty much like stop the demon from possessing you. Now here's the thing that kind of confuses me, is its power and abilities. Okay, we see in like the first time when we see everything that happens and goes down, let's take it to the hospital scene. So we see this one girl, she gets possessed by the monster already, and she's just banging her head against the window. Now she's at a wide open window. There's a bunch of people right there. Why isn't anyone else being bothered by this except her? I don't understand that. I never got that. Another thing, let's take it to Sandra Bullock and Sarah Paulson when they were driving away from the hospital. How is it that Sarah Paulson, her character, gets affected by the monster, but Mallory doesn't? Like, how is it that Mallory, and I get it, she was looking down, she was picking up the phone and what have you, but at the same time, they were both in the car. They were in the car long enough for the monster to come by and possess them, just like that, if it's something that's happening in the air. Also, after the fact, when Sarah Paulson gets killed and everybody's pretty much just running around in the streets, how is not all those people affected by it right away, including like Sandra Bullock's character? How is her character not affected by it while running? That didn't make sense to me at all. It was one of the things that kind of threw me off. On top of the news airing like what was happening around the world, how come no one was affected by that? Greg is affected by the live stream, but how come no one's affected by the news cast that's happening? Some of it was actually live. Why isn't people affected by the live stream? And just like Sandra Bullock's character is able to hear the creature. And I don't get it. Like, how is it that she's able to hear the creature talk to the kids, but yet she couldn't hear the creature talking to like Lydia when she saw her mom, or like Sarah Paulson when she heard whatever she heard and caused her to become suicidal? That didn't make sense to me. What else didn't make sense? There was something else. Yeah, and what else didn't make sense to me is like, who's affected and who doesn't get affected? What's the stipulation? Like, what condition do you have to be in to be one of those people like Gary? Like, it didn't make sense to me. I feel like it had no consistency, nor did it have a actual structure of how this creature is supposed to affect people. That didn't really sit right with me. And that was like something that just really threw me off. Like, it was like, how is this possible? What else kind of threw me off was the birds. The birds was also another thing that was kind of like, I get it. It's the birds are supposed to be helpful, but how come the birds didn't help Mallory and the gang when Gary was in the fold? I mean, clearly the birds could have just went off, chirped at him, and got rid of him. They could have got rid of him right in the beginning. So I'm wondering, like, how is it possible that Gary was able to keep his eyes controlled and have the birds not be alarmed by him? It didn't make sense to me. It literally did not make sense to me. I mean, what are you going to tell me? He got controlled by the fucking drawings, that he wasn't even possessed the first time he came there? That the drawings is what possessed him? Like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit to me. It really did not make sense at all. I mean, it's like with Fish Fingers. The birds actually chirped at Fish Fingers when he was trying to, like, get in there and trying to kill everybody, but everybody was reluctant to let him in. The only one that wanted to let him in was fucking Tom and shit, because Tom is just that kind of nigga that wants to help people out. But other than that, I mean, the birds was chirping. They noticed, like, the birds was chirping at him. Why didn't the birds chirp at Gary? That didn't make any sense. But then we see the birds chirping at the one dude on the river when Mallory comes in contact with him and shit, telling them to take their blindfolds off. So that part was also bad also. Bad also. What kind of grammar is that? But that was like a very bad consistency with, like, how the birds are being operated in this movie. Like, how are they not consistent with the birds? And I just felt like they didn't have any consistency with, like, how they use some of these characters, like the birds and the creature. The other thing that had me going off of a whirlwind a bit, how the fuck did they survive for 5 years with electricity and everything, and no damage to the house also? I mean, I could not be the only one that was thinking this, because all I could think about was like, damn, how are they surviving? Because throughout this whole movie, I was thinking, how are they going to survive? How did the kids come into play? And to find out that one kid was actually Mallory's and the other one was Olympia's, I literally thought it was both Mallory's, to be honest. Even though I like the fact that we were jumped into the movie. And that's one thing I do like sometimes, is when, like, movies don't waste their time on so much useless exposition that they kind of just push you into the movie. I kind of like that sometimes, because then it shows like they're not wasting time on, like, meandering things or meandering lines or dialogue and what have you. They're kind of like trying to get you into the movie. But what really was, like, pissing me off, well, not pissing me off, but was making me wonder the first time I watched was, how did they survive with all this electricity? Like, I literally wonder, like, how did the electricity still work? I mean, if anything, if these dudes are as violent as they are when they're possessed, and they said, like, some of these people that are seeing the creature, that want to see the creature, you know, they're criminally insane, but they only said that for, like, a group of people. So are you saying, like, all those people who are seeing, like, the creature and wants to see the creature, are they criminally insane? I don't know. I'm lost for what you guys are trying to point me to. But I wonder mostly, like, how did they survive with all this electricity still working? How did they survive with this house still standing? Because if anything, if I was the creatures and I knew where the motherfuckers were staying at, I would have just told them, like, burn that house down. Just straight up. Like, it would have been simple as that. Game over. Movie over. But what really was like making me wonder is like, how did they survive for 5 years with the kids also? And it's so funny to me because I'm like wondering how, because the adults couldn't even last for like days, weeks, or months on end without getting killed, backstabbed, or just like becoming one of the creatures, you know? But somehow, some way, Mallory and Tom managed to raise two kids and survive 5 years in the same house, full electricity and everything, with no issues. And that really kind of like pointed to a big plot hole for me. I'm like, dude, this doesn't make sense. I would have thought at least one of the kids got killed. I mean, makes sense to me. I mean, as brutal as it sounds, but it makes sense to me. Because the kids, they will be just like Olympia. They'll be too trusting. They wouldn't be like Mallory, who is survival first instincts would kick in. Their first thing would be like, oh, you need help? I'm going to help you out, sir. Because they're kids. They don't know better. They haven't been exposed to like the world like that. You know, some kids would probably develop that instinct of not trusting everyone that comes along. But most kids, they tend to be trusting most of the time. Bringing it to a conclusion, I mean, the movie wasn't bad per se. I mean, I enjoyed it the first time watching it. At the same time, I still was kind of like wondering how things were coming about. I don't want to nitpick too much about how bad it is or everything else that I found bad in this movie, because it was a lot more bad than good that I found in this movie. But yeah, this isn't Cinema Sins or anything like that. But other than that, I mean, as far as like a grade I would give it, I mean, on my Instagram I gave it like a 3.5, which is pretty much like kind of average or almost above average. And well, it's a 3.5 out of 5. And I mean, mainly I just felt like the storyline definitely was the worst part about everything, and it just did not help the movie. I mean, if they kept everything consistent and if they had like a real good structure of how everything operated, this movie could have been a classic. I was reading an article on Blake Disgusting today, and they were saying like Bird Box itself hit like 48 million subscribers watched. 48 million, that's a lot, bro. And it's like the second highest movie watched on Netflix. So they were trying to joke as if like a Bird Box 2 could be in the works. And honestly, in my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if some bitch ass shit happened like that. I mean, I hate when companies try and capitalize like that. They see a movie success for a movie, and then they try and like make these whack ass sequels that just aren't as good as the original. If you guys haven't watched Bird Box yet, definitely check it out. I mean, this is all just my opinion about how I felt. I mean, if you guys watch it just to watch it, hey, watch it for the fun, for the thrills. But if you're anybody like me and you just start paying attention to little nuances that happens in the movie, yeah, you would definitely not like this movie. I mean, everybody I talked to, after they watched this movie, they kind of felt like it's not that great. It's pretty much overrated, which is our result for this movie. It is definitely an overrated film. But now that we finished talking about Bird Box, let's go ahead and get into the outro. Alright, you guys. Sorry for all the sniffling and everything that's been happening. Like I said, I am getting over a cold. Hopefully I did my best as to getting through all of the things I'm trying to talk about with this movie, Bird Box. But like I said, first time watching it, I didn't really totally hate it, but after watching it again, yeah, it didn't sit well with me like it did the first time around. But anyway, as you guys know, I always usually suggest a movie to watch, and today I'm going to suggest Superior. Now, that's a movie that came out in 1977 starring Jessica Harper, and she plays this ballerina that's coming from New York, and she enrolls into this dancing school that is very popular, and what she finds out while staying there, that it is a deep evil that is happening. It's definitely worth watching. I mean, this one is definitely worth watching. It's filled with a lot of cacophony of sounds and beautiful lighting that's in the movie. The acting is not that great per se, but I think a lot of the lines or dialogue that's being read was voiced over, because when I was looking at the liner notes of like the actors and everything, it did say dubbed. So I think the majority of this movie was voiced over by other actors, because I think the original film way it was shot in Italian. So I mean, I didn't watch it in Italian. I watched the English dub version of it because that was the only thing that was available. And where I watched this movie was on Tubi. It's definitely worth checking out. I know there was a Superior remake that came out not this year, but last year. And it did pretty decent in the box office, considering that it was a very low budget film. Well, it didn't have like a super large budget, I believe, but what it recouped was definitely more than what it like put in for the movie, because it was definitely that good. And I hope to see the 2018 version pretty soon. Hopefully it hits like Netflix or Tubi or Amazon or somewhere where I can actually check it out. But other than that, I mean, that's it for today. I mean, if you guys want to follow me on Instagram. It's Walterdoom. Other than that, I mean, enjoy the rest of you guys' day. This is Walterdoom signing out for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping now. Peace.